This is the time of the year that the snowy mountain men come into their own and the stock whips are cracking in the Australian Alps as the annual cattle roundup gets underway. Just down from the Victorian high country is our very own mountain man, Paul Lockyer. He mixes it with Tom Burlinson and Clancy and all the rest of them. Would you please welcome Paul Lockyer? Good to see you had a shave. I mean, you look pretty rough when you came
It was tough
up
there in the mountains, yeah.
Did you think that you're in the tradition of Clancy the Alpine?
Well, it conjures up all those romantic images, doesn't it, Ray, of those tough mountain horses with tough mountain men aboard clattering down the mountains. But I think horses for courses, I think when you're up there, you should leave most of it, at least, to the people who know it best.
But you are a renowned rider. I mean, there'd be
I've rid in 4 or 5 continents now, haven't I?
Ridden
horses in 4 or 5 continents.
Now, is it fair? We keep reading about the Victorian High Country being a battleground at the moment between the conservation people and the...
Well, it has been a long battle for a long time, and the cattlemen up there are still saying the battle's not won. In fact, all those competing interests in the Victorian Alps, and I think there's an Alpine National Park now that covers 6,500 square kilometres, and the cattlemen say that they are still being forced off that property. They're long leases that have gone back 150 years up there. And of course they say their enemies are the conservationists and the environmentalists who say their cattle are doing all the damage.
All right, you've given us, there's a 2-part story. We're seeing the first one today.
And the second one tomorrow.
All right, let's head for the high country then with our mountain man. Have a look at this.
Stunning shades of blue unfolding into the distance. On this flattest of continents, the existence of these majestic peaks and the deep valleys is a breathtaking quirk of nature. No one has ever tamed this country. Those who got to know it first and still say they know it best, the mountain cattlemen, treat the high country with great respect. Its moods can change dramatically. When autumn's chill begins to seep into the high country, the cattlemen begin to glance anxiously towards the heavens and the peaks. The annual race is on, the race to round up their far-flung cattle in that rugged country and bring them down to the flats before winter's ice and snow engulfs the mountains. As Graham Stoney and his son Chris set out on their muster, hunting out their cows in the pockets of pasture, they do so with much uncertainty about their future in the high country.
Hello, come behind.
The Stoneys say this could be their last roundup.
Walk away, girls.
They're one of 11 families hit by the new restrictions on grazing in the Victorian Alps, introduced on environmental grounds. Some cattlemen are losing their leases altogether. The Stoneys will lose more than 1/4 of their grazing area, and they'll have to reduce the size of their herd, measures that they say could end the family's long association with the mountains.
We're just going to lose everything. Australia's going to lose its heritage. We're going to lose the value of the grazing industry, which is considerable. And most of all, I think Australia is going to lose something that they're very, very proud of.
On their neighbouring high country spread, the Lovick family, who have been bringing their cattle up here every year since the turn of the century, are just as worried about the future. The Lovicks are unaffected by the new grazing restrictions, but believe that the moves against the Stoneys and the other families are just the beginning. Assurances from the Victorian government that there'll be no further moves against the cattlemen are dismissed up here as political claptrap.
There are now millions of acres free of cattle up here that were never grazed, have never been grazed. Why take more and why take some of the best grazing country? It just doesn't add up, it's not fair, and we're going to fight it.
At the end of the mustering day, when the Stoneys and the Lovicks gather round the campfire, the conversation is dominated by the struggle to hold out in the high country.
And often
And there's that long unresolved dispute between the families over who raises the best mountain cattle.
I mean, eventually Lovett's cattle will be as well bred as ours.
Is that right?
That's right, yeah. They're trying hard and they're nearly there. Yeah.
What do you think, Charlie? Do you think you'll ever catch up to them in the breeding stakes?
I don't know if we will really, because tonight's menu is rump. It'll be rare and it'll probably be stonings. It won't be ours.
What, you just picked it up while you were out one day, did
Well,
you?
it just happened to fall across our path, yeah.
A strong larrikin streak has always run through the mountain cattlemen, but it would be wrong to underestimate their toughness or their
I think
determination.
that if
Those qualities, after all, are a legendary part of high country breeding.
Gentlemen, there will be a reward to be divided among you as you like when the colt is recovered. 100 pounds.
When it came to making the Man from Snowy River movies, the Lovett's and the Stonies were natural extras. They not only had the mountain riding skills, but the movies were made in their backyard, the high country that they knew so well. They now fear that the mountain legends will die out along with their livelihoods.
We're going next year. Lovett's probably will go in 5 years' time or 3 years' time. All the cattlemen are threatened.
and the horses are unhappy.
The horses want a bag of chaff.
But you really think it'll be the end?
I think we're looking at the beginning of the end of the mountain cattlemen, and we're fighting it, but I am very pessimistic about our future.
The cattlemen are working the high country just as their fathers and their grandfathers did before them. The question is whether time and modern day concerns about the environment have caught up with them. We'll explore the issue further in our next report as we travel down the mountain with the Lovett's, the Stonies and their cattle. The trek down to the flats.